Most retirement plans are technically correct. The math works, the projections look reasonable, the asset allocation is appropriate for the time horizon, the savings rate is on track, the advisor checked every box on the checklist, and they're missing the most important thing entirely. I've built over 1,000 financial plans. I've sat with hundreds of clients at every stage of the financial planning process. People just starting out, people in the middle of their careers, people weeks away from retirement, people already in it. And after all of that, I can tell you something with complete confidence. The technical side of retirement planning, the math, the projections, the strategies, that's the easy part. It's the part the industry is very good at. What the industry is not good at, what almost nobody is doing, is the other part. The part that actually determines whether retirement is everything you hoped it would be, or just a number you hit. Here's what I mean. Most retirement plans are built around the same central question. Do you have enough money to stop working? That's it. That's the question the financial planning industry is organized around answering. Save enough, invest wisely, hit the number, stop. And look, that question matters. I'm not dismissing it. Getting the math right is important, and I spend a significant amount of my time helping people do exactly that. But it's the second question, maybe even the third. The first question, the one that should drive everything else, almost never gets asked. What are you actually retiring to? Not from, to. Because here's what I've observed over and over again in this work. The clients who struggle most in retirement aren't the ones who got the math wrong. They're the ones who got the math exactly right and never thought about anything else. They hit the number, they left the job, they did what they were supposed to do. And then they woke up on a Monday morning with no meetings, no deadlines, no colleagues, no problems to solve, and realized they had no idea what they were actually building toward. The money was there, the life wasn't. That gap between the financial plan and the life plan is what this video is about. Because there is a retirement plan that accounts for both, that treats the numbers and the life as equally important, that asks the hard questions before you retire instead of after. So what does this plan actually contain? Let me walk you through 4 things that are almost universally missing from traditional retirement planning. 4 things that have nothing to do with your portfolio balance and everything to do with whether retirement actually works for you as a human being. The first is a life design. Not a budget, not a withdrawal rate, not a Monte Carlo simulation showing your probability of success, an actual picture of what your life looks like. What does a good day look like at 65, at 70, at 75? Not a vacation day, not a special occasion, a regular Tuesday in February. What time do you wake up? What do you do in the morning? Who do you talk to? What problems are you solving? What are you creating or building or contributing to? What happens in the afternoon? How does the day end? If you can answer that question with something specific and energizing, you have the beginning of a life design. If your answer is vague, travel, golf, time with grandkids, you have a highlights reel, not a life design. Because travel ends, golf gets old, grandkids have their own lives. What fills the rest? That's the question a life design answers, and almost no retirement plan touches it. The second thing missing is an identity plan. This one sounds soft. It isn't. For most high achievers, people who built careers, led teams, solved hard problems, were known for something, professional identity and personal identity become deeply intertwined over time. Not because that's healthy or ideal, just because that's what happens when you spend 30 years being very good at something and being recognized for it. When that role disappears, suddenly, completely, on a specific date, the question that follows is more destabilizing than most people anticipate. Who am I now? Not what do I do? Who am I? I've watched genuinely successful people struggle profoundly with this transition. People who did everything right financially, people who were ready to leave, people who thought they'd feel nothing but relief, and they were blindsided by the identity vacuum that followed. A real retirement plan addresses this directly, not as an afterthought. As a core planning element, who are you outside of what you do? What values define you, independent of your professional role? What do you want to be known for in this next chapter? Those aren't therapy questions, they're planning questions, and the answers should shape everything from how you spend your time to how you structure your finances. The third thing missing is an engagement strategy. We covered the research in the last video. Your brain needs challenge, your social world needs deliberate maintenance, your sense of contribution needs a vehicle. None of that happens automatically in retirement. It has to be designed. And I mean that literally. Not hoped for, not assumed, designed. Where are you going to find intellectual stimulation when the job is gone? What's your plan to stay socially connected when the built-in social infrastructure of work disappears? How are you going to feel useful and relevant and capable when there's no external structure demanding those things from you? These are not small questions, and they have practical answers, but almost no retirement plan asks them. Instead, we assume that freedom will fill itself, that leisure will be enough, that the absence of work is the same thing as the presence of fulfillment. It isn't. The most resilient retirements I've seen, the ones where people are genuinely thriving 10 and 15 years in, are the ones where engagement was deliberately planned for, where the person didn't just leave something behind but walked towards something specific. A consulting arrangement, a board seat, a passion project, a part-time role in something completely different, a structured volunteer commitment, something that provides what work provided, without the parts that made them want to leave. That doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design. The fourth thing missing is a spending philosophy. Most retirement plans include a budget, an income projection, a withdrawal strategy, a spending rate designed to make the money last. What they almost never include is a clear set of values around what the money is actually for. What do you want to spend generously on in retirement? What experiences matter enough to prioritize? What do you want to give to people, to causes, to the next generation? What do you genuinely not care about spending money on? These questions matter enormously, not just philosophically, financially, because without a clear spending philosophy, people make one of two mistakes in retirement. They underspend. They're so afraid of running out that they live far below their means, hoarding money they'll never use, sacrificing experiences they could easily afford, dying with far more than they ever needed. I see this constantly. People in their 80s with substantial portfolios who never gave themselves permission to spend, who optimized so hard for security that they forgot to actually live, or they overspend on the wrong things. They fill the void with consumption, travel, things, experiences that feel meaningful in the moment, but don't actually address the underlying need for purpose and connection. Spending that accelerates portfolio depletion without adding proportional life satisfaction. A spending philosophy prevents both mistakes. It's not a budget, it's a set of conscious decisions about what money is for, made deliberately in advance with clear eyes. Return on life, not return on investment. That's the metric a real retirement plan optimizes for. These four things, a life design, an identity plan, an engagement strategy, and a spending philosophy, are almost universally absent from traditional retirement planning. Not because they're unimportant, because the industry was never built to address them. The industry was built to manage portfolios. You are not a portfolio. So let's make this concrete, because I don't want this to feel like philosophy. I want it to feel like something you can actually do, something you can walk into a planning conversation with, or sit down and work through yourself, and come out the other side with a real answer. Here's what a complete retirement plan looks like when it accounts for life and not just money. It starts with a conversation most planners never have. Not, what's your target retirement date? Not, what's your risk tolerance? Not, how much do you have saved? It starts with this. If money were completely off the table, if you knew with absolute certainty that you had enough, how would you spend the next 20 years of your life? Take your time with that question, because most people have never actually answered it. They've answered versions of it, vague versions. Travel more, spend time with family, relax, pursue hobbies, but those are categories, not answers. A real answer is specific. I want to spend 3 months a year in a warm climate. I want to be meaningfully involved in my grandchildren's lives, not just present for holidays, but actually present. I want to build something, a business, a creative project, a body of work that I'm proud of. I want to stay physically strong and active into my 70s. I want to give back in a way that uses the expertise I've spent 30 years building. That's an answer, that's a life design,
and every one of those specifics has financial implications. The 3 months abroad changes your housing and travel budget. The involvement with grandchildren might influence where you live. The business or project might generate income that changes your withdrawal strategy. The physical health goals have their own cost structure. The giving has tax implications worth planning around. The life design drives the financial plan, not the other way around.
From there, a real plan asks the identity questions. Who are you outside of what you do professionally? What do you want the next chapter of your life to be about? Not in terms of activities, but in terms of who you're becoming. What do you want people to say about you at 75 that they couldn't say about you today? These questions aren't soft, they're clarifying, and the answers shape everything from how you structure your time to what kind of work or engagement makes sense to carry forward. Based on what you've said about who you are and what matters to you, what's your actual plan for staying engaged, challenged, and connected? Not assumed, not hoped for, designed. Is it consulting in your field 2 days a week? Is it joining a board? Is it building something new? Is it structured volunteering that uses your skills? Is it part-time work in something completely different that gets you around people and keeps your days shaped? Whatever it is, it goes in the plan, with intention, with clarity about what it's providing and why it matters. And then we build the financial plan around all of it. Now we know what the money needs to do. Now we know what a good life costs. Now we know what income streams make sense to build or preserve. Now we know what the portfolio actually needs to provide and what it doesn't. The math gets cleaner when the life is clearer. Because you're not planning for a generic retirement, you're planning for your retirement, a specific life with specific costs and specific sources of meaning and specific risks worth protecting against. That's a fundamentally different exercise than plugging numbers into a calculator and hoping the projection holds. And here's what I found consistently in this work. When people do this in the right order, life first, finances second, two things almost always happen. The first is that the financial plan becomes less stressful, not because the numbers get easier, but because the purpose behind them gets clearer. You're not just trying to hit an arbitrary number anymore. You're funding something specific, something you can picture, something that matters to you. That changes your relationship with the plan entirely. The second thing that happens is that the number itself often gets smaller. Not always, but often. Because when you've done the life design work, when you've been honest about what actually matters and what doesn't, you usually find that the retirement you actually want costs less than the vague, undefined retirement you were planning for. The undefined version requires a bigger buffer, more cushion, more runway.
Because you don't know what you're planning for, so you plan for everything. The defined version is more efficient, more targeted, more honest, and more fulfilling, and almost always more achievable than people expect.